Hi, I'm TJ, and this is Home with TJ. You can find me on TikTok and YouTube at Home with TJ. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you're going to do. I would greatly appreciate it. I am also going to be on Spotify, also at Home with TJ. And of course, I want to thank you for stopping by and letting me talk your ear off a little bit. I appreciate it. I feel like one of the hardest things to do is negotiate for a new vehicle. Honestly, for no reason at all. There's no reason that buying a car should be that hard. I think I read somewhere that they're trying to make it more consumer friendly. They want it to be more so manufactured to the customer rather than manufactured to the dealership to the customer. Is it true? I'm not sure, but I do think that that would be really cool. It would probably take a lot of the headaches out of purchasing. So it's crazy. This year, my family, we had purchased three brand new vehicles. My wife and I, we had purchased a vehicle. My mother-in-law purchased a vehicle, and my father-in-law also purchased a vehicle. So I was really invested in the negotiating because I didn't want anybody to get ripped off pretty much. Thankfully, I was able to get decent deals on all of the vehicles. We ended up purchasing a Honda CRV. My mother-in-law purchased a Honda HRV, and my father-in-law purchased a Ford Maverick. And just a couple years ago, I ended up purchasing a brand new truck also. I purchased a 2021 Chevy Silverado. Back then, I was still having a lot of help from my dad, learning how to negotiate cars and everything. So this time, I was more on my own. I did a lot of research on my own too because I didn't want to get lost between contacting the dealerships. It happened when we were looking at trucks that my dad was looking at the same time I was, and because we have the same first name, he would also get the same emails and everything. So they would think they're talking to him, but they're talking to me. So I really wanted to kind of show that I'm a little more adult now and negotiate my own car deals. So today I just kind of want to talk about five of the main tips that I would share with anybody that's trying to purchase a vehicle in the near future. It doesn't have to be like just purchasing. You could be leasing, financing, buying with cash, no matter what. There's plenty of different resources that you're going to be able to use for my tips. And also there's plenty of other resources on the internet. So these tips are not going to be in any particular order. That I don't think one is more important than the other one, but I do believe that they do go hand in hand in one way or another. The biggest thing I could say is try not to be in a rush. I know it's not always the most feasible time to purchase a vehicle. In an ideal situation, I would recommend giving yourself at least 3 months in advance to just start getting into the market, trying to do your research. I say 3 months because each year is divided into 4 quarters. So January, February, March is quarter one. April, May, June is quarter two. July, August, September, quarter three. October, November, December, quarter four. Also, there's holidays mixed in there too. So there's no specific timeline I would say to stay on top of each year, but it's to be mindful of, I would say. Also, one of the main things is to tell these dealers that um, you're not in a rush, and you don't have to tell them that you are in a rush or anything. But the main thing that I would always tell them is that we're not in a rush, but at any time, if the price is right, I'm willing to purchase. I was really thankful that my wife was willing to also help with the negotiations too. We were both looking in different parts of the city, and thankfully we were able to kind of split the city up in one way or another to where we only talked to specific dealerships for the first half of the quarter, and then when we finally decided that it's time to buy, we moved to the other side of town, which gets into my next tip, which is do your own research. Like I said before, there's plenty of resources online where you can get all your notes put together. You can find somebody to help you purchase these vehicles. But I want to make sure that the important thing is that you do your research and you're prepared to go into these car negotiations. There's plenty of people on YouTube that you can follow. One of the guys that I follow was the homework guy. And then I also saw the Chevy Dude and Car Edge. There's a bunch of different people you can follow on YouTube that can help with all these things. I would definitely ask some family and friends for advice also. especially if you know somebody that's well versed in purchasing vehicles. They can be a great help to you also. Back a couple years ago when I was looking at trucks, at first I wanted to get a Tacoma, but there's one of the guys at work that I was really not really close with, but I was able to talk with him about how to go about these car negotiations. And he was a big Chevy guy, so he advocated for that make very very much, obviously. Come to find out that once I started doing some more research and taking his recommendations into consideration, just to see, I didn't want to stay too close minded about what I wanted. I wanted to make sure that the investment that I was making was going to be worth it in the end. All in all, I am more than satisfied with the purchase that I made. I feel like if I ended up getting a Tacoma, I would be really upset with the lack of space and the lack of truck bed, pretty much also. So I'm very happy with my full size truck purchase that I ended up going through with. Also, on doing your research, you can also look at a state too. There's obviously going to be some main differences. Like there's going to be a actual delivery fee because you're most likely not going to want to travel to pick up the car if you're strapped on time or anything. But if you are, there's ways to get around it. But there's also some other like state fees or anything that you're gonna probably have to deal with, and then taxes. It's a whole ordeal pretty much. However, I would recommend that you could also look at a state and use their negotiations also. Also, when we decided that we were going to split the city pretty much, we were looking mainly at the tax rates. We knew that we were going to have to pay some sort of interest, tags, licensing, and all kinds of stuff like that. So we wanted to make sure that we were going for the lowest tax rate if possible. If you're financing, definitely be mindful of the interest rate, how long you're going to be going for. But mostly if you're doing like cash buying, I would recommend taking a look at the tax rates. When it comes to like interest and everything, you want to calculate it right, because in the end you probably might end up spending a good amount over what they tell you that you're going to be paying for. So it's better to be safe than sorry, I would say, and try to go through your own financing if possible. But sometimes these dealers, they don't let you do that for some reason. It's how they work with the finance companies to get the incentives. But in my opinion, if they have the incentives, they can also offer it to you, or they can lower the price of the vehicle, something. So there is that. Also, make sure you're checking like inventory too. It doesn't really matter if the car you're actually looking for is within your city, because 9 times out of 10, if a dealership is desperate for a sale, they're going to be able to get that vehicle from another dealership anyway. So, being mindful of the inventory on these lots, I would recommend just kind of peeking in and seeing exactly what there is. But inventory is not a deal breaker when choosing a dealership to go with. The one thing that is kind of a deal breaker is finding a salesman. If you're going to be shopping online, chances are you're just going to get matched with the internet manager or something like that. Everybody's an internet manager for some reason, so they're not anything special. At first, I thought I was getting hooked up straight to the manager, so I was really excited. But then I realized that everybody was the internet manager, so that went out the window, and they were treated as such. They were just another salesman. Also, I want to drop in my third tip, since we already kind of talked about it, is decide whether you're going to finance or pay with cash or lease or anything like that, because that's going to determine how you're going to want to make these negotiations and all the research that you're doing also. I'm sure if you're trying to pay cash for a car, you don't want to look up how to lease a vehicle, or if you do want to lease a vehicle, you don't want to talk about financing or anything like that. You want to make sure that you go into these negotiations with a clear path of what you want to accomplish. But yeah, I want to go back into one of the important things is to find a good salesman, and you can find a list of all the salesmen on DealerRater. It's a website where people review dealerships, and they can give actual reviews on specific salesmen. It's really helpful for me because I always want to find somebody that's willing to negotiate rather than somebody who's brand new off of, out of training or something like that. Also, when you're trying to decide when you're going to buy, like I mentioned before, these the months in the year they're separated into quarters, and there's some holidays sprinkled in through there where they try to put some sales in. But in my opinion, those sales are kind of hit or miss, and they're not always the best sales anyway. The main one that I always see is like Memorial Day or Labor Day sale. Those are going to be your biggest savings, or 4th of July, so they could be hit or miss. You could strike gold, but for the most part, I would not take too much consideration of the holidays. The main thing I would take advantage of is the time of the month and time of the quarter. We all know that these salesmen they work off of commission, so they need to make monthly numbers. And if I'm interpreting it correctly, they have to also make quarterly numbers. What we did when we purchased our vehicle was I started looking at the end of the fourth quarter, so around December. And in the beginning, it's okay to go into these dealerships because you're going to want to end up test driving and just kind of get a feel of what they're looking at, what you're looking at, right? So what the interest rates are going for, if they have any incentives. Those are things that you're going to be able to find when you go into a dealership physically. But for the most part, it's just to physically see the vehicles and get a test drive, so so you're not wasting your time trying to negotiate on something that you don't even want. After you get your test drives and you decide which vehicle exactly, or you're between two different ones, then that's when you can really start narrowing down what you're doing, and you don't really have to go into dealerships anymore. And they're going to try really hard to get you in there because their manager's being really aggressive, or you have to come this day so we can honor the price. I wouldn't fall for any of that because it's all just hearsay. And, I feel like they train, well, it's not, I feel like I know that they're training salesmen to lie in order to just make these numbers. And that's how they make their living. But they don't really care that you're going to spend your paychecks, your hard-earned paychecks, just so they can make this sale for their one paycheck. You know what I mean? So I don't play very nicely with these car salesmen. So I finished all my in-person shopping. I like to sprinkle some visits here and there just to show face, and so they know that I am serious and they're not gonna take me off any lists or anything, because I did want the vehicle. A couple months go by, and I let the first 2 months go, January and February. I let the deals go by because the price isn't what I want it to be. The interest rates aren't there. Their financing, they didn't have any good incentives going, so I wasn't really interested in purchasing at that time anyway. But then we started going through March, and I started getting a lot more messages saying that we still got the vehicle. Are you guys still interested? How's it going? They were really trying to get my attention so I can go in and try to make a deal. I was very insistent that I was not going to go in unless I was going to be walking out with the keys, pretty much. So a couple weeks go by in the last month of the quarter, and then eventually I get to I did all my negotiations through email and text, and I got to the point where they were no longer willing to negotiate with me. And that's when I finally started looking at the other part of the city. I took the lowest price that 4 other dealers, and I took it over to the other side of the city, and they were able to beat their number by quite a bit. We'll just say it was quite a bit. We weren't getting any offers below 41,000. And by the time we were ready to buy, we were well close enough. We're damn near at MSRP, you know what I mean? Out the door. Anyway, so those are going to be my 5 tips, just real quick ones, So make sure you're not in a rush. Do your research. Figure out how you want to purchase the vehicle. Figure out when you want to purchase the vehicle. And my main one that worked for me was only contact half of the dealers at first. So that's really all I have for today. And I just wanted to drop a quick podcast for that. Just drop some knowledge real quick, see if anybody was willing to pick up what I was throwing down. Like I said before, you can find me on Spotify, TikTok, and YouTube. You can find me at Home with TJ. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow, whatever is applicable to whatever platform. If there's any other topics you guys want to hear about, don't hesitate to reach out, because I'm more than willing to do some research, and we'll be able to talk about, whatever topic there is out there. As always, I just want to say thank you for stopping by. And my name is TJ. This is Home with TJ, and I hope to see you next time.